Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another Ready or Not development briefing update video. Quickly, before we get into it here, I'd like to shout out my partnership, Buy Games Cheaper with Instant Gaming. The affiliate link will be down below if you guys are interested. In this video, we're going to be going over a Void Interactive Ready or Not development update announcement that was posted the other day. We're not only going to be taking a look at new overhauled maps that are going to be completely changed in the 1.0 update, we're also going to be looking at some gameplay changes as well. Without further ado, we're just going to get straight into it. Starting off here, this is what they have to say. Today, we want to provide insight on the gameplay-oriented changes that have been made for evidence collection and across many of the existing maps in Ready or Not. The maps will be focusing on our port, dealer, and farm. I think what they're trying to say here, as I believe this sentence is kind of worded a little bit strangely, they will be showing off gameplay-oriented changes for the evidence collection system they're going to be bringing on, as well as showing off the changes to existing maps in Ready or Not. Continuing on here, these improvements bring our maps further in line with our visions for the game and increase the quality of gameplay substantially. Many maps, where possible, now have more than one spawn location and generally more freedom of movement for you to approach your initial breach. Throughout this briefing, you will see various media that reflects the topic. Please keep in mind that the development of content depicted in this briefing is a work in progress and may be subject to change in the game's final state. Significant evidence collection changes. We want evidence collection to remain an important element of the gameplay. However, we also want it to be logical and enjoyable for you as the player rather than tedious. Our game data shows that players would often exit a mission instead of trying to collect the last bit of evidence in the map. Weapons that suspects drop are still critical pieces of evidence that you need to secure to prevent AI from picking them up and using them, and this is unchanged. We did make this process more accessible by newly allowing you to enable an option to outline dropped weapons that highlights them when nearby. We hope this prevents you from having to search extensively just to grab the many weapons that drop on each level.
Lead the talk. One suspect down, requesting immediate medical.
Talk reporting. Copy. Clean house and we'll take them out.
Talk. Suspect DOA.
This is Talk. Roger that, entry team. Tag him.
There's a picture here kind of displaying what this will look like in game with the weapons on the floor, evidence on the floor. Moving on, most notably though, a map-specific developer placed objects previously referred to as evidence are now considered reportables. Hard reportables are clearly listed as mission objectives evidence required to finish the mission. Soft reportables are generally optional, hidden objectives for the player to discover. Reportables get their name by how you simply look at them and report them to Talk. Reportables are more flexible in usage than the hold F to bag style of gameplay that's used for securing firearms. Reportables do not have to be small baggable pieces of evidence. They allow you to report entire rooms as a form of evidence, high amounts of objects like a row of meth on a shelf, or large objects like computer servers. This greatly opens up our development team's opportunities for creative storytelling as you move through our maps. Certain reportables could even unlock as you progress through the level, requiring a first one to be discovered before you can connect it to another. We've got a picture here that I'm going to be displaying that shows off one of the reportables that they're describing here. Continuing on, as mentioned, mission objective evidence is also known as hard reportables. Gone are the days of Googling where the location of a specific hard drive or small laptops are. For gameplay purposes, we will be providing context clues to hint where you should look for certain mission objective evidence. An example of these implicit context clues is find a Mouse Val's office computer instead of the vague find a Mouse Val's laptop. Based on the context clue about an office computer, you should keep an eye out for the office spaces in the map. An example of a soft reportable would be the Red Room on Valley, which your team was not aware of at the beginning of the mission. Not every map will have soft reportables, and we plan to avoid scattering them around needlessly. An example of an area where we decided not to include soft reportables is the individual piles of bodies on Club. This new evidence system is intended to decrease tedium of evidence, not increase it. Meanwhile, it opens up many avenues for storytelling and gameplay flow. That's all they have to talk talk about with the new evidence collection system, we're going to be now moving on to the changes and overhauls with the maps in the game. First one is going to be Port. I would assume Port Hoken. Port is receiving an entire gameplay redesign on top of a brand new level layout and art pass. The goal of the design is to make one of the most difficult levels within Ready or Not. In the old version of Port, the focal point was on two concrete buildings that appeared thoroughly abandoned and nestled in a cluster of storage containers that make up the boundaries of the map. These concrete buildings were claustrophobic and multi-layered with precarious staircases throughout. Although intriguing, it did not evoke the realism of a bustling port that we shifted our focus to. The updated port places you mostly outdoors in the middle of a massive industrial shipping district with imposing crate-carrying steel structures lumbering about. Workers that are here in shifts throughout all hours of the day just seem to be another element of the port shipping complex. The SWAT team will be thrown into the gauntlet with Port, which features a narrow mess of old shipping containers as well as a large expanse that must be traversed before entering the main warehouse. We've got some pictures here that I'm going to show off as we go through with Port Hoken as well as the rest of the maps. Also, in this version of Port, we've made substantial changes to make it feel like a cumulative experience of some earlier levels. Several of the cases you've been exploring in the storyline seem to converge into activities that go on here. Clearing each corner, you are illuminated by splashes of industrial light from towering lampposts above that guide you deeper in. Whilst there is a lot of industrial lights illuminating the scene, with the nature of it being at night and in the rain, the light itself is very harsh and does not scatter around as much as daylight does. For instance, industrial lights lead to darker shadows as a result, meaning night vision and flashlights might end up being your best friend going into these areas that aren't directly lit. Unlike our other maps, this one will throw you into a particularly inclement weather conditions appreciated by the stealthy nature of its premise. You're in the middle of one of Los Sueños' worst storms it has ever seen. The torrential rainfall that results further complicates your distance engagements where gaps between shipping containers appear. As you progress through the outdoor maze of this map, you will find yourself breaching a variety of smaller buildings, shipping containers, and a central warehouse. We still wanted the player to be able to see where they are going, as pitch black is not friendly for navigation at all, and we don't want the players to feel punished for not bringing a flashlight. This is where the overall rain and wetness factor again comes into play, where we can use reflections of the light rather than direct illumination to pick out edges and highlights on darker objects to assist in navigation. So far, the gameplay direction goal of creating one of our most difficult maps yet has come true, with our playtesting almost always falling short of a complete mission clear-through. However, the level is balanced in a way where enemies aren't immediately difficult, initially only facing the player with pistols and shotguns until the latter stages of the level where higher caliber weapons become introduced. It will test every part of your skills from CQB cornering to faraway firefights. Make sure you kit up your squad appropriately and carefully keep your engagements priority on near to far. That's going to be everything for Port. We're going to be moving on to Dealership here. Dealer, on top of receiving a narrative design and art update, throws players into a tense, dark environment with a high number of suspects and civilians. Suspects blend in here with the intent to coerce the SWAT team into gaining information before entering rooms and discerning who is a threat and who is not. There is also an undercover agent on this level who must be apprehended but will appear as a potential threat if not listened to. The colorful neon signs of Caesar's car dealership inscribing the night sky lure you towards destructively deadly engagements among its slickly lit parked cars. Where the previous versions of the map, the parking lot served as a brief entryway to the building itself, this version gives you the option to enter the lot or take the street to two other entryways. In total, you can currently approach from the parking lot, front entrance, and mechanic garage. There's going to be various pictures here of the dealership I'll be showcasing to you guys. One thing they mention about some of the screenshots here is whenever the story allows it, this is the type of map we want to create. Players have multiple ways to enter the main building, and that's always a good thing for replayability. So I really like how they are hinting here just by going through this. We are going to be seeing various different entry points for a lot of these overhauled maps, which is an amazing thing, and I'm excited for that. Empty police cars with their lights blaring already barricade the street, punctuated from fresh bullet holes from before your SWAT team arrives. Keep an eye out for any officers down and make sure the next bullet doesn't take one of you. It's your call whether you take on the fleet of parked vehicles first or risk potential suspects and panicked civilians flanking you as you clear the rest of the dealership building itself. Set at store closing time, armed suspects blend in with the front workers at this largely family business. Practice precise tactics to preserve life and apprehend the suspects connected to this operation's darker dealings. That's going to be everything for dealer. We're going to be moving on to farm now. Farm contains many secrets and is an onslaught of combat and high-stakes decision-making for the LSPD SWAT team. The level primarily consists of tight, CQB-oriented combat arenas with lots of cover and concealment for both the player and threats. We have reintroduced sentry points within this level, making some exterior areas incredibly high risk, but high reward for those looking to quickly dominate key movement routes for AI within the map. Many of the new scenes of farm, without giving away spoilers, are already presented with the previous Vol 61 briefing, so be sure to check those out for reference. I think they're talking about a previous bi-weekly newsletter, volume 61. The previous versions of farm was dominated by a tunnel system that you and your team could use to make entry into the main compound. Twisting and turning throughout the hillside, you ran into enemies in hallways lined with wine barrels. Again, we do have various screenshots that we'll be showcasing and taking a look at as we go through this here. Our updated version of farm, while still containing a tunnel system, puts more of an emphasis on the above ground nature of the map. You no longer need to enter a tunnel system in order to begin clearing the compound, and many of the photos in volume 61 alluded to this fact. The new rendition of the tunnel system serves instead as a cellar space that you can traverse different areas of the map. Be careful, for enemies can also use it to flank you as well. As mentioned in the quote at the top of the section, the tunnels can be a key part of your team's strategy to avoid suspects who are posted in lookout positions. While the map is abundant in visual concealment from climbing the vines and garden spaces, it is relatively sparse in solid cover that could shield you from enemy gunfire. Placement of evidence reportables will lead you to a foray throughout the vegetation and dusty buildings. Now that is going to be everything to go off of with farm here. As we can obviously notice, just looking at all of these maps in the overhauls, it does look phenomenal. Everything about this is a huge upgrade, at least in my opinion. Visually, it looks like a huge upgrade, and just based off of what they're mentioning about the multiple entry points, I think that is a big thing as well. That's a huge change for the game, for the better and for replayability. But that will be our conclusion here. They do have a little thing to say here at the end. Our new evidence collection system and updates to pre-existing maps should make your playthroughs more enjoyable and enhance replayability. These opportunities deliver you a cohesive gameplay experience which interfaces seamlessly with our storyline, all coming together for our anticipated 1.0 release towards the end of the year. Before we sign off, a little planning. They're going to be showcasing a picture of the new planning tablet. We've looked at this previously in the past. It's like a tactical planning tablet that you can flip open. It'll show you the layouts of the location that you're currently on. I believe you can also use this in the lobby as well to kind of plan out how you want your mission to go, which is awesome, and I love that. So far, everything that they've been showcasing, especially with this new news update, I'm definitely getting more and more excited as we get closer and closer to 1.0. But either way, that is going to be everything. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about all of these overhauls for the maps. What do you guys think about the new evidence system they're going to be introducing? I'm curious to hear about that as well. Let me know down in the comments. If you want to check all this out for yourself and you want to read through this on your own, I'll put that link down in the description. Thank you guys so much for sticking to the end though, and we'll see you in the next video.